There's not a lot of chicks
I'm sorry
that are in the weed scene.
If you ever thought you were going to get into the weed scene and there's going to be a bunch of ladies flocking your way to buy weed, it's the opposite, actually. It's a bunch of dudes flocking your way.
And all the hot chicks you see are getting paid to be there.
So I'm actually surprised.
Do you ever fight it? You ever fight the nap urge?
That's my favorite type of high. Like when you can't keep your eyes open, you have to fight consciousness. Yeah. Like I try and get there every night.
That's like edging. You know what I mean?
I do that. Like I'll go grab a sody or something. See if the sody brings me back to life.
There you go.
See if another dab works.
Sleep.
Like I'm getting really high and sleep. I'm high and I'm really sleepy. Let's see if another dab.
So
yeah, right.
Wolfie and Matt were here. They stopped by the shop the other day, and we were all here doing dabs when they drove me home. From like 1 block away to where they had to drop me off, I was just like this the whole way there, and finally the last block, I was just like, I passed out, and then I wake up and they're like, "Which street do we turn down?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that was the last one." I was like, "Oh, this one right here."
I don't think we talked about it on the cast, but one day I gave you a ride home and you fell asleep.
Oh yeah.
Like you just, and I'm like,
was I snoring?
No, but like that's just for an example. You might have been very lightly, but I look over. And I'm like, this motherfucker's asleep.
Think it's some sort of chauffeur business?
This is a 10-minute ride home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, dog. This show has single-handedly fucked me up more than I've ever intended to be.
I'm in the weed, scene, and I bump shoulders with weed dudes, and I smoke a lot, dude. Yeah. Like compared to people you would think smoke a lot, like no, I smoke more than those guys. Yeah. Like. I'm rolling a lot of weed up. I'm taking massive, unnecessarily huge dabs. Like it's over consuming. It's sacrilegious, whatever you want to call it. Like that's how I consume my cannabis.
If you're trying to get fucked up, you want to be, or if you're trying to get high, you want to get fucked up.
I'm
right?
trying to feel it. I'm like medicating, getting high, whatever you want to call it,
just
to the
so we're
extreme.
On the same page, you don't have any ailments or anything.
No ailments that I'm aware
of. Just the fact that I'm not high as shit right now.
Yeah,
no ailments.
I need medication from from life.
Yeah. Oh, we should probably introduce the show.
Let's talk about John, man. We usually just come in here and we just start riffing,
hey, I'm not worried.
But John, introduce yourself, please do.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jon Capetta. I'm the VP of Content at High Times, and I like weed a lot. And that's, what brought me here.
Hell yeah. Where did I first meet you, John?
I don't even remember.
I don't even know. We bump into each other every fucking where we're at.
You've been kind of like, honestly, I think I knew, like, because you do so well online, I've known about you since before we actually met. And then it was like, oh, okay. Like, now this is, I see it in real life.
No doubt. No doubt.
But, I think we did the like, hi, what's up, like for a while at events before we like really like had our first conversation.
No doubt, no doubt.
And then the sacred ground brought us closer together.
No doubt.
The sacred ground.
I seen John wandering around Puffco. He was
on PuffCon.
He was on a tab probably.
Oh, yeah.
Not on PuffCon.
Yeah, no. I purposely, I usually wear the beanie. I usually have my, my specific glasses on. I tried to dress differently for PuffCon so that I could, trip out and like not deal with whatever. And I think the funniest part about it was people who don't really know me recognize me no problem. But most of my friends didn't recognize me. And the only one who I didn't recognize was Frank, who like I apologized to him for running his fucking scooter thing.
I was barreling into people and throwing shoulders, dude.
That was hilarious. That scooter makeup.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was great because also, like, when you see someone do like old person makeup, like sometimes they wear a mask or whatever. Like you don't usually see like the hands wrinkly. You know what I mean? Like
your hands are wrinkly,
dude, the whole time. You know what's fucked up?
Hilarious.
I didn't realize how long it would take to get that makeup off. Like 5 days later, I was still pulling fucking adhesive off. I was like, oh shit, that's crazy.
Was it just like, are you just using Elmer's glue?
No, the way, I can't remember, it was a type of prosthetic spray. But what they would do is they would just stretch out your hand and they would spray it, let it dry, and then when you do this, it would just wrinkle up. And it was just very realistic. It was sweet. And they threw like fake fiber hair on me. And then the way they did the makeup and shit with splatter, they made it look like I had liver spots. It was pretty sick, dog. It was so convincing. There was older people who thought I was older than them. So there was like legit grandpas and grandpas who were like giving me the right of way because I was on the
Grandpas and
scooter,
grandpas.
and I was like, no, you're a real old
It's
person.
2022. Right?
Yeah.
I know. I just know he meant to say
I know,
grandpas
I
and
know.
grandpas.
What did I say?
You
Grandpas.
said
Grandpas and
grandpas and grandpas.
PuffCon's got a very big daddy scene.
They got
I
a
don't know
huge
if you noticed that.
demographic. You know, they
Yeah.
they're everywhere. You'll
I
see
will
all,
say-
all creeds and.
Let's be
shapes
real.
and
There
everything.
are more dicks swinging in weed circles than there are chicks.
There are
Like,
no.
There's
There's
no
not a
ladies,
lot of
guys.
chicks
I'm sorry
that
to
are,
tell
that
you
are in the
that.
weed
If you ever
scene.
thought you were gonna get into the weed
Oh.
scene and there's gonna be a bunch of ladies flocking your way to buy weed, it's the opposite. Actually, it's a bunch of dudes flocking
Yeah.
your
And
way.
all the
I'm
hot
honestly-
chicks you see are getting paid to be there.
So I'm actually surprised more hot chicks aren't like running the game like that. Like there used to be a delivery service back in New York called the Green Angels, and they were models, and like
Yeah.
that they would go walk around with briefcases, and like the shtick was the cops are never gonna search a hot chick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you'd have like a really hot model show up at your apartment with a briefcase full of weed, and it was like kind of a surreal experience. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think they were. I don't think they were doing anything more than that. I'm not.
Of
like,
course
trying
not.
To, whatever.
But also, what a great way to get stoners to give
Well-
you extra money.
well,
right?
Now-
exactly.
now-
You want tips?
Now you go into a house and the dude opens his door and he's in his underwear with his belly hanging out. That's usually how your deal
Yeah.
goes around
You're
nowadays.
just like, hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Like that also encourages or discourages people from hanging out. I think like that's like the most common dealer gripe that I hear is like, oh, the dispensary never wants to hang out with you after. You know what I mean?
Jesus
You
Like,
know what? So the
Christ,
first
poor
dealer I ever
guys.
had, his name was Moses. God rest his soul. Very cool dude. Very funny. He was German. He grew weed. This is when it was super illegal, dog. But he grew great weed. And I remember I invited him over to my birthday, and he came and he gave me like a huge nug. And all my friends were they loved him. My roommates loved him. Every time we bought weed, he'd come over, but he'd hang out just long enough to where he'd leave, and we'd be like, no, what, you just got it. Like, come hang it, you know? He knew how to be not a
The art of
weird.
the exit?
Yeah, dog. He was so cool. We loved hanging out with him. He was so cool. And then he came for my birthday, and everyone was like, he's fucking sick. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Ironically, I like to think I'm not like a hangout guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm on Instagram on live hanging out all the time, but when it comes to like, hey, come to my house, I'm like, I'm good. Like,
Well, my response always whenever anybody says that is like, yeah, you just have a shitty dealer. Like if you got a dealer who like actually knows what he's doing, like he's got places to go. The reason
Yeah.
why drug dealer time exists is not because he's just dicking around at his house. It's because he's trying to fit in 3 other stops on the
Yeah.
way. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So like for a lot of these people, like, oh, the dealer wants to hang out with me. Like I think that that's also something that like you like to convey to make yourself seem cooler.
Yeah,
You know
that
what
is
I mean?
one. Yeah, you were his only client, and that's he relies on you for some conversation.
Exactly.
That
Speaking
is
of-
your friend.
Speaking of the dealer, you just wrote an article that the dealer isn't going anywhere.
So so I wrote an article called "The Trap Is Forever."
Yeah.
And so zooming out a little bit, we started Weirdos at the beginning of the year, or like, a quarter of the way into the year.
What is Weirdos?
So Weirdos is kind of like our rants and raves section. It's
On High Times.
on High Times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a way for, so when I first started High Times, I kind of took the approach. I was aware of, its standing in the community, why people were mad at it for whatever reasons. And I was kind of like, all right, I think in order to turn the ship around, like we need like a few ground rules. And one of those ground rules was that like we only have so much breath. So instead of like chasing ambulances or talking shit or like throwing stones at anyone besides like the feds and legalization and whatever, we should focus on uplifting and inspiring. So I only want to tell stories about brands that like we think are doing it right. You know what I mean? People who like deserve attention as opposed to people who just know how to pitch. You know what I mean? And so Weirdos was kind of came as like a almost catharsis for the writers, so that we could kind of throw a little bit more elbows, be a little bit less objective, but like say some of the stuff that the industry needs to hear, even though the jury is still out on some of it, right? So like things like indica and sativa. Like Jimmy did a piece for us earlier this year called Indica and Sativa Are Dummies. His pitch was that instead of saying indica and sativa, which we're trying to say is stimulant and sedating, we should say something more like Afghani and equatorial, which is more like where these strains come from. I am going to write a rebuttal for that a little bit later in the year called that you're trying too hard. Why don't we just say upper and downer, right? And like, so there will be like a little bit of conversation happening within Weirdos, but it's really like a soapbox for us and, you know, people throughout the industry. I mean, Frank got on and talked about what it was like to find weed in North Carolina.
It fucking sucked.
So, you know, a lot of the stuff, actually, the one that I wrote before this was called, I don't even remember what it was, but it was about shit talking and just basically how like
it's no good.
Yeah, it's what we really convey when we're talking shit about somebody else, right? And like honestly, like that came from like me trying to work on myself and like realizing like I have a problem talking shit and like, you know, whatever, it just happens in the industry.
We all three of us bonded and became closer because we were talking shit about one specific person.
Yeah.
So, okay, I will say in that piece, I did leave like, and obviously I preface this with like, I don't expect anyone to follow rules that I set, right?
Of course.
But like, here are my rules of engagement. And so like, you know, if a brand fucks you over, someone like directly fucks you, right? Like, you know, fucking Delta lost your bag or something like that, you know, whatever. Like, I don't think that's really a big deal.
That's a good, yeah.
Another one is if somebody comes and attacks you personally, right? So like, for example, like Windy and all the shit that he was talking about, like I was going to let that kid die until he started saying stuff about one of the homies' girlfriends.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, well, now I'm going to burn you. You know what I mean? Like now I want you to feel this because like you involved somebody who
It's not on the battlefield.
Yeah, who just like was totally unrelated, just like an innocent, right?
Yeah.
And you can take all the shots at me you want. Like I don't give a shit. I'll throw them back at you. Like I'm a New Yorker. I love to fight. You know what I mean? But I also think that like, you know, some stuff, most of what people are communicating when they're talking shit is like, I'm unhappy where I am, right? Or like I feel entitled to whatever this person has, and so that's why I want to be mad at it. And you know, sometimes it's just exhaust and whatever. But that was the last one I wrote, and then this most recent one to kind of be the counterpoint to what seemed like corporate cannabis propaganda with the shit talking piece. I wrote a piece that kind of explains the traditional market to the recreational space. And I think that there's a lot of money guys who are coming in who are, you know, blowing out and doing everything they think they're supposed to do in like the right way, and they're just not getting the results they expect.
And you think that stems from the root of it just being money?
Yeah, it's greed.
Okay.
It's greed. Like so actually I started the maybe third section of the piece with the reason why most people where the opportunity became named was when Wall Street Journal started saying like, oh, there's a $50 billion opportunity in cannabis. You know what I mean? And then all these VC guys are like, oh, billions, like I can get a piece of that, and like started creating infrastructure that they thought was gonna wash out all the guys that are playing. The counterpoint that I keep coming back to specifically in that piece is Tropicana. And Tropicana still uses migrant workers to pick their fruit, right? And the reason why they do that is because every time they've tried to automate it, they found out that they lose too much product and it sacrifices the quality of the product. So it's better for their bottom line to use human hands, right? A lot of the cannabis process, people are looking at the same way, right? Like I'll just use machine trimming as an example. Like, if you're just throwing a nug into a series of scissors, right? Like it's not going to be handled the same way as a human does, who wants to see it look at its best, you know? And most of the recreational market is built around driving margin. It's not built around driving value, which the traditional market has always had to provide that value. Otherwise, it doesn't see the return customers.
And does that tie back to hanging out with the drug dealers?
I mean, listen, I think that I started I started selling weed when I was a kid because I couldn't afford the weed that I wanted to, right? And like actually, like,
ain't that the truth, dog?
The reason why I'm fascinated, like why I wrote Doja's story last year, or whenever I wrote it, was because that to me was like, okay, like if I just kept pushing what I was doing, like this is the mountaintop for that kind of thing, right? And so like I do firmly believe that like, especially like, you know, the adage about the gold rush, like where all the money was made
on the
people selling
shovels.
Yeah. People selling the accessories to like, you know, whatever. So
all the shit that wasn't the gold, you know.
Exactly. So
all
I'm
the
not
stuff you need to get the gold.
Yeah, the fucking houses, the everything,
the pigs, the axes,
everything, yeah,
all the bullshit, right? So to me, that's always been the most lucrative play in cannabis. I never thought that there were going to be I never believed that anybody who came to the game was going to be an immediate king.
So do you think Mylar bags are like the most lucrative thing in cannabis?
I mean, look at Sticker Farmer's business, bro. I mean, like
insane,
he's made a huge business out of like graphic design mostly. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, he knows how he's got a
Well, he has the bag plug, he has
Yep.
the plastic bag plug, and he has like a team of people that know how to fucking deliver.
Yeah, he's got an
Exactly.
insane group of graphic designers
I
from
mean,
all across the country.
Exactly.
And
But
they
think
can
about-
work remote too, so it's like
And think about how responsive they are. Like when the day that they came out, that the slap happened at fucking with Chris Rock and Will Smith, like they
Yeah.
had that shit on a Mylar the next day.
Yeah.
You know
Dude,
what
they
I mean?
had they had like the stimulus check.
No, we're talking about an industry that can't advertise right now, that Instagram is always shutting down, that everyone's complaining we're being silenced, right? Like that's how you memify the game and win right now, you know? So like I do think the other side and what I said in the piece was like the reason the trap will always win is because they're actually living this life, right? Like they actually consume these products. They're not passive like, oh, I'll smoke on the weekend or whatever. Like if the shit sucks, they know it sucks because it doesn't work for them. And they're smoking everything else, not because they get it all for free or whatever, because they want to see how they stack up. Whereas a lot of these new jacks, and like I say this with all due respect, because I'm sure the people who've said this to me before might see this and whatever, but like I hear from a lot of the new jack guys, like, oh, it's like no weed out in the game is better than ours, right? And like they expect me to like lie to them, or like that they really expect that their weed is the best, right? And it's because that's what they're getting for free all the time, right? And like they have very limited experience with the plant, so they think, oh my god, this shit is tops, and like how could anything else beat it? Because they're not looking around, you know. And like that was actually the biggest part of the shit talk piece, which I think is kind of analogous to what I said. This one is like the bigger thing that I'm trying to convey with a lot of my work is like look outside yourself, right? Like we all get so lost in our own, you know, the 6 feet around us that we forget to acknowledge that, like, you know. And one of the things I said in the shit talking piece, which was definitely taken the wrong way by some of the brands, but like brands like Cookies and Glass House spent millions of dollars developing a brand image and like, you know, like having all the frills and accessories that like make them look like a real brand, like a Coca-Cola in this space. So for the guys that are like going and talking shit on their pages and trying to pull that traffic over and be like, fuck those guys, I'm a real head. Like, are you delivering that kind of experience to that consumer yet? Because if it's one of the new guys who are just coming in and expecting that, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. But you think it's a win because you got someone new who came to your page. You know what I mean?
That love doesn't last too long. It's not a steady foundation when you're like, your whole sales pitch is fuck those guys. Like
Exactly.
Yeah, you'll get a couple dudes that'll come rally up with you, but like it's not. They're not going to give you their money most of the time. These guys.
It's funny because I included, that was the end of my shit talk piece. It's like, who the fuck gives a shit what they're saying? They're not buying your weed anyway. You know what I mean? But for me, that's part of the reason I took that stance with High Times, right? Is like, if you just chase ambulances all day, like, yeah, you can build a big crowd on that. People love to watch a train wreck, but like, they're gonna come for you too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's better to chase waterfalls.
I don't know. Recently, speaking of High Times and, you know, ethics and morals, and even amongst the breeder community, like there's, like even me, like I'm a hate it or love it type of guy in the breeder community. Not everyone's necessarily like go Mace, but I got the opposite going on where like it's go Mace, you know.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, the guys that I bump shoulders with, like the Exotics, the Onis, not, you know, like guys that are my homies in the field, you know, Capulator, all these, you know, recently the High Times thing with the Mac thing. Did you see that?
Yeah. So I will say I don't run the Instagram account.
That's
like shit happens.
I
right?
figure with that too.
We did fix it the next day.
Yeah.
So like I will say, and he got a post that promoted him out of it. I do think he was a little overreactionary. Like,
yeah.
I've spoken to dude before, and I
Yeah.
didn't get, you know, I introduced myself. I, you know, gave him my card, whatever. I didn't hear anything from
Yeah.
him. I just saw the post, and somebody sent to me. It was like, oh, look, you guys are in trouble. And I was like, listen, the thing that I think everyone forgets is like the attention span on the internet is like fucking 15 seconds.
My thing is, I look at it and yeah, I'm like it's High Times. Like, of course, you know, I hate to say it, but like, you know, there's probably a miscommunication or lack of information going on from that said person. Or
Well, I will say, if you send us pictures of weed and we're like, oh, this is dope, we're going to repost it,
Yeah.
we are not going to say to you, this is not what you tell us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's...
And that's another thing with like due diligence and doing groundwork. Like, if you're going to go talk about breeders, you should probably have a dude that knows about all the tea like promoting breeder
I
shit.
will say, in a perfect world, I would have a lot more in place.
Yeah.
I got one kid running our socials. And like,
but that's just
Leo
like
works his
people expect
balls
a
off.
lot from High Times.
Totally, I get it.
But
I
that's
get it.
just like outside looking, and they're like, oh, High Times, like there's no room for like they're perfect. You know, like how could they get it wrong?
Well,
It's High Times.
Listen,
you know?
and this is the thing that I think everyone forgets, right? You do something well long enough, you become the man.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to say fuck the man,
Yeah.
right? So one of the first things, and I will say this was imparted on me by one of the less popular High Times guys in High Times history, right?
No doubt.
Somebody who I still hear every day, whatever. But I will say, I'm not going to say his name, but he was always great to me. I have a great relationship with him. But one of the first things he told me when I came to the brand is, actually, I don't remember who it was, but somebody did and this is when I was still handling like the media communications. Somebody did, when there was cannabis cups were huge and somebody was doing a competing event, they like offered like $10,000 to talk shit on High Times post. To like whoever talks the most shit on High Times social page, like we're going to give them $10,000. And now the beauty of this was like that kid was never giving away the money.
Yeah.
But like he got a bunch of kids really riled up and they like, swarmed on the pages. And it was super effective, right? But like, at the time, I was like heated. I was like, I'm gonna fucking take this guy. I'm gonna take this guy out. Like we're gonna figure out I'm gonna figure out a way to like effectively fuck him, and I'm gonna fuck him. And then, dude hit me up and was like, listen, I think you should take a breath and recognize that like that's your ego talking, number one. And when you're, and this is, a little bit of the egotistical way of thinking about it, but he's like, when you're sitting on the throne, everyone wants to shoot at you.
Yeah, that's how it
The
is.
second you start shooting
Everyone
back,
always goes for the crown, baby.
the second you start shooting back, then you sink to their
You
level.
get at their level.
But I will say now, I am not above sinking to the level in comments and like on story posts. You know what I mean? Like if someone says something, like if someone calls me a communist, you know what I mean? Like I have no problem.
As the Communist Party,
I've been engaging.
we are the Communist Party.
I've been engaging on this Instagram platform for 5 years, give or take, probably give. And it used to be like I used to get kicks out of insulting people. I'm gonna say it like, oh,
Of course.
Jungle Boys, whatever, Jungle Boys this and Burner that. It's so easy that's the easy thing to do. And it was just my way of like trying to make friends.
100%.
And I found out that
And it gets attention. I'm not like, let's not forget, like people are attracted to violence and hate way more than they are love.
So I got all these friends. Now I got all this support. And then it's like, I used to like get in, like if someone said something, I would say something. I wouldn't just say something. I would make 30 memes and I'm about to end this man's career type of deal. And that was my shtick for a long time. And dude, like just thinking about that type of shit gets me like now, like where I'm at right now, it's like I don't even like if somebody says something funny in the comments, I'll like rebuttal and then I'll just delete it.
I do that a lot. I
have not grown up yet. Fuck you. No, I'm just kidding.
I send a snarky replies and then honestly, I'll delete their post.
And I
too.
delete it.
Just take the whole shit off.
I delete it because and it'll be on somebody else's. Like on my shit, I'm full control. Delete, block.
Yeah.
I block all those motherfuckers. But
I posted about that
but
today.
it's
I
just
blocked a kid
because
this morning.
it's
Fuck
because hey, now you're fighting back, so that's violence. So now you got a fucking mark on your profile, and now you got to wait 30 days. Hopefully you'll get it back. So that's the main reason. If not, if I had like free speech on Instagram, I would probably still be fucking anxiety-ridden Masonic, just fucking, I'm about to dig into this motherfucker. So it's a double-edged sword for me.
I will say, I think that a lot of people, and like for me, like I'm getting it as texts coming into my phone when people comment for me. So it's like for me, I send a witty retort back, and I get back to whatever I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like it's a game. And also, and I know I said this before, but like in New York, which is like definitely a much different culture than here, because here it's much more like, they don't even tell you when they're angry at you. In New York, we roast each other for fun, and like it's like a steel sharpens steel mentality. Like the reason, and I'm not trying to sound like an egotist right now, but the reason why I think my style is cool is because I was trying to be different than everyone else who I grew up with, right? And when they would do something cool, it's like, oh fuck, not I want that. I need to get something doper than that to like show up my own gang. You know what I mean? Which is like funny to think about, but like that's just like. It made us all work all the time. And I did say when I first got to Los Angeles that like it was real easy to work circles around people out here just by doing the things that I said I was going to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'll deliver this to you next week. And actually like they'd have it in their hand next week and they'd be surprised. You know what I mean? Like, I expected this, like next month or something like that. Like I told you got to do next week. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? I'm a man of my word, But like, I will say that, like, also, I was thinking about this earlier. If it's something that I worked on, like, if it's a piece and, like, especially, like, if I know that you haven't read the article by, like, the comment you make or something like that, like, I don't feel bad about just firing back. And, like, I acknowledge it's probably not the best brand look or whatever. But like I said before, like, people are way more attracted to the violent side of it. Yeah. So if I can walk the line.
You got 100 views when you're talking shit instead of chilling.
You get thousands of views when you're talking shit. You get 100 views when you're just chilling.
Yeah.
You know? But so for me to walk and, like, again, I do try and, be a good person, right? Like, whatever. But I also think that there's, like, also so much that people could stand for.
But that's also part of being, like, a fucking journalist.
Well, it's being visible, too, right? Like, I wake up every morning to people fucking talking shit about various different things, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, most times I'm able to just, like, oh, this doesn't fucking matter. These people are unhappy, whatever. Then sometimes, like, like this morning, fucking 5:30 in the morning.
I haven't even had my coffee yet.
Someone sends a fucking snarky tweet, and so I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you want...
It usually happens in the morning when I'm like, fuck. I chose violence.
So honestly, it fucks up my day.
You got the whole day to think about it.
I will say, if you come at me in the morning, like, I'm going to respond way more aggressively than I will.
Do you know Surefire?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen Surefire?
Yeah.
So Jamie's my boy.
Yeah.
Like, Surefire's, we're good. And I made a look-alike post. He didn't like it. And he's like, fuck you, dog. I got your back. And I'm like, I don't, and I clap back, and I'm like, fuck, I'm not like this with him,
Yeah.
But, like, and it was in the morning,
But it's also the game. And, like,
it's always the morning, dog.
I will say also, like, it's definitely a character flaw, right? Like, I do this to my friends. Like, actually, and this is so fucking stupid, and they're going to laugh. Like, I'm going to send them this clip. I got a bunch of friends on the East Coast who I used to play D&D with. And
nerd.
Yeah. One morning at, like, fucking...
They're making a movie.
It was like 8, 9 a.m. or something like that, their time. And it's like, so 5, 6 here. And it's like a Saturday or Sunday. And they're all fucking talking about when we're scheduling the next game. And so, like, I wake up and, like, to my phone just blowing up. And I'm like, fuck you guys. Like, that how early it is here. You know what I mean? Like... Don't ever fucking text me before 9 a.m. fucking West Coast again. And I remove myself from the group chat.
Jesus.
As soon as
Email me.
As soon as I was done, I was like, I'm a fucking schmuck. But you know what? They'll get it, so it's all good.
Yeah,
don't do that to the homie. Yeah. Come on, he's a hard-working stoner out here. Come on, he's on the West Coast time now, you fucking East Coasters.
But that's also, like, my whole network is on the East Coast, right? Like, everyone I grew up with.
You still play D&D?
So honestly, the last time we played was online during COVID. So we played on what was the website? I don't know. I don't even remember.
You know Vin
D&D
Diesel?
Beyond.
You know Vin Diesel plays D&D?
Yeah, he's
really?
got a fucking. Yeah. He's got his character tattooed on him.
That's dope.
Do you know B. Dolan has a song about Vin Diesel? It's called Vin Diesel is My Hero or something like that. You got to listen to it. It's hilarious.
It sounds fantastic.
Henry Cavill is a huge PC and Warhammer fan.
So, okay, Warhammer, I played Warhammer when I was a kid.
That's
fucking
sick.
Just honestly, I didn't even really love the game, but I love fucking painting those little
all that
I
always
always
looked really cool to me, but I was a poor South Central kid, so I could only watch you guys play.
So here's the thing. I wasn't even doing it with mine. I had a friend who was super into it, that's what he would get for Christmas and all those things.
Yeah.
And I would just, like, because I was good at painting, so I would help him, and, like, I would just fucking paint it, and he'd want to play, and I'd be like, whatever, I'm going to play fucking N64.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, so when we played D&D Beyond, it, like, honestly, like, we were all over the country. We were all fucking pent up because of COVID. So, like, I sped through the whole thing. Like, I was immediately, like, every time we entered a new room, like, find the beast. You know what I mean? And they were like,
I don't know how to play D&D.
I got killed twice. So.
But, yo, what other like, cool shit like that do you do? Like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh,
So
Magic?
I grew up on Pokemon. I will say I was, like, by the time that Yu-Gi-Oh came out, I was just a little bit too old. Where, like, I was
How old are you?
I was in, like, probably 8th grade, and, like, I remember like the younger kids in middle school playing it.
How old are you?
Like, oh, how old am I now? 32.
Yeah. You're 32. Yeah, you're probably a little bit too old for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Magic the Gathering, baby.
So you were born in 90.
89. December 89.
April, baby. 89.
Yeah. Are you 89 too?
April. Yep.
Yeah.
Me and my older brother played Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, really?
Competitively.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Not like at tournaments, but like at the local spot.
Fuck yeah. So like when I was coming up, it was before that kind of gaming. This was still in like the LAN party days, like when we were going to Counter-Strike to fucking internet cafes to play Counter-Strike. You know what I mean? And I had an N64 at my house, but it was never like a group activity the way that like fucking that shit was. Right?
Yeah, the LAN parties were dope at the cafe.
Yo,
I got
man,
to
when it was
experience
like
that for like 2 seconds only.
my friend used to do them at his house. We would order pizza, 4 TVs, and all 8 and 8s. You know what I mean? We'd be playing Halo, tons of random shit, dude. It was sweaty, disgusting.
So I got into music like around the same time, and then like concerts and girls became.
Not me.
Yeah, I seen a picture of you. Was that when you were like in your emo shit?
Oh, for the when we were young fucking ones. Yeah, that was a good. I got fucking great response for that one. Next time you want to fucking.
How long did you
just
dress
let me know.
like
I
that?
probably got something. That was my high school career.
Right,
Like all.
he still got the hair.
Yeah. I mean, my hair.
He said that was my high school career. I love it.
When I was like, when I was maybe
saying
14 years
Roar
old, my friends were like playing Battles of the Bands, and like I was running street teams and pretending that I was like a manager / agent so that we can get them gigs on shit. Going to like Warped Tour. I think I was 15 years old when I like went to like my first Warped Tour that I was like on stage for something, and I was like, oh shit, like this is possible. You know what I mean? And then just kind of like kept pushing that. But the weed stuff, that kind of like. That was kind of alongside the music shit, really, because like I couldn't afford weed, right?
Yeah.
So like if I wanted to smoke, like I'd have to get out, sell 3 quarters, and then like I'd have a quarter to smoke. But like I also say that I had to buy back in every single time. You know what I mean?
I was
always
the
getting high.
worst. I'm still the worst hash dealer and whatever in the world.
I was never a good
allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't sell anything besides clothes on
Seeds.
Fairfax.
You can
And
sell
some
seeds,
beans.
right?
Yeah, I sell seeds. According to the DEA letter, I do sell seeds. If you know what I'm talking about. The DEA released a letter that the seeds are okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, according to an article, I never looked into
So I
it.
mean, listen, we've as a brand in the space for a long time, we've been advertising seed dealers since the 80s.
No doubt.
And the way that everyone's always got away with it was just you've put fucking what's it called in the box, for promotional use only.
Yeah.
And everyone, I mean, I'm sure some people got arrested over the years, but like those same guys, seed guys, are still advertising magazines.
Still seeding it up, baby.
Did you know that the
Seeding it
High
up.
Times idea of the magazine, they were all doing Nas when they were doing it, and they thought of the idea?
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I will say I love nitrous, right?
Okay, we're okay. It's okay to say that?
Yeah. Why? We're not,
Nitrous is fire, guys.
are we not supposed to say nitrous?
I don't know, it's just a bad look. I feel dirty when I do it.
Honestly, so
We're getting nitrous after this, all right? Yeah.
Has is on a can.
Back on the East Coast, like it wasn't you can only get it from like the nitrous mob at shows, right? When I got out here and like
learned about them. I just learned about the nitrous mob.
when I got out here and I found out like, they had like tobacco flavored nitrous and shit like that, my eyes were opened up, bro. Also, there are parties sometimes, bro. There are like certain parties that you go to out here, and they're just like tanks in the back that like they don't tell everyone about. But
So-
like if they know you're down, they'll fucking be like,
So-
"Yo, you want a balloon?"
It was so funny. I was at the store and we were trying to do edibles for the show, and they're like, "It's not a good look. We don't want to have blah blah." I was like, "Fine, right?" And one of the paid regulars literally rolls up with a fucking tank.
Was it the dude?
Skippy Simon, the guy. who was
Fucking
trying
Skippy. I love that guy.
Dude,
Shout out Skippy.
dude,
When's
he's in
his
the-
next set?
hilarious. Monday probably when he signs up. He ain't getting booked. We were in the back and we're just heading there. All you hear is he's like, dude,
Bro,
it was wild.
Fishing out in the parking lot of events is my favorite thing in the world. I like
Fishing out.
Speaking of fishing
Fishing
what's
out.
that
What is
word
that?
you told me outside about the raided buds? The bud with raids? What's that word? Moxie or something? It's in your article.
the raided buds.
Oxytocin.
The buds.
Sprayed with red.
Yeah.
So they called it Exos.
Exos. What the fuck? That's
like-
my
like-
first time ever hearing that.
You've
that-
never heard Exos?
No one's ever. All these 1,000 viewers in the first fucking day are never heard the word exo.
No, bro. I mean, so maybe it's an East Coast thing.
You know
but,
what
like,
exo is?
Exos was it's like saying exotics. It's just like basically like it was supposed to be back then like the weed that wasn't just like haze or sour.
How many years
diesel or
ago was
whatever.
this?
I
Like
mean,
12 years, 15
early,
years?
like probably closer to 20.
Fucking A.
like
Exos.
early 2000s.
You need to bring exos
So
back.
that's why I fucking put Pretendo in the headline for that fucking article, and mad kids commented like, "What the fuck is Pretendo?"
I know what Pretendo is.
I was like, I probably dated myself with
Yeah.
that one, but come on, that's a really fucking funny.
Pretendo, Stress, Doty, Doja,
Yeah,
fucking
Mexican
all these
stress.
things.
We learned this is actually a Oaxacan strain. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Stress isn't a strain.
Yeah, I didn't realize
Stress
was
is a
strain.
like a process.
Yeah.
But it's like pressure though, right? Isn't it? Like,
Yeah, stress is like usually brickweed.
yeah.
Stress is brickweed.
Yeah.
Brickweed is not a strain.
Yeah. But there is a specific strain that is brickweed, right?
No.
They could
Brickweed
grab
is
any
just-
strain
it's
and
like a
turn it
Thai
into
stick.
brickweed.
No, I was saying the guy that was talking about.
Oh yeah,
he was
Oaxacan.
talking
Maybe
He
it was
talking about
Oaxacan.
Oaxacan strains.
Somewhere in Mexico for
Yeah,
sure.
somewhere.
So in New York, there obviously there were plenty of people who had brick, but then there was like by this point there was, I mean, my whole life I don't want to say I was smoking great weed because obviously that shit.
Oh,
was
I grew
not
up smoking
good.
stress,
But,
dude.
like,
What are you
no,
talking about?
It wasn't that bad for us. Like,
mine was terrible.
In New York, like again, there was haze, there was fucking diesel that was available, but then everyone had Cali work very early. There was some like really cheap shit you could find, which was like brick. And then there was like Exos, which is what like in our town like was like supposed to be the best shit at the time. They'd only sell it to you in like a nick or a dub. Like it was like, it was what it was. But that was the shit that always like they always had to kind of would really smell like bubble gum or really whatever. And when we were kids, we were just like
too good to be true.
Yeah. We were
Like
like
this
oh,
smells like fucking like actual strawberries,
like it
like
smells
artificial
like the shit that
car
they
wash
fucking,
strawberries.
Like you ever have like 99 bananas? And
Yeah.
like you fucking smell it and it smells like bananas, but it doesn't taste like bananas.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of flavoring. You know what I mean? And yeah, like it turned out to be like fucking lemon pine sol or some shit like that.
Terrible.
Shit.
So actually the funniest part about it was, and I briefly tell this, and I didn't want to lean too much into like the real dangers of it because I'm talking shit about like, oh, weed is fine in that paragraph. But one of the kids who we were at a house party and he smoked it and like he sat down, he like fell back into this chair. And we're like, what's going on? And he's like, I can't see anything.
I'm legally blind.
And
he
we're like,
said.
what? And he's like, everything just went black.
POP,
and, like,
hold it down.
He sat there for a few minutes, and then like it was kind of like you ever do 5-MeO DMT?
I have done
stand up too
DMT a
fast?
couple times.
So when you're like when you're rematerializing afterwards, and like that's kind of like how he described.
He was on the come down of the he was on the DMT come down.
He told me it was like snow on TV that like kind of like it got blurry, then kind of came back. You know? What
Have
I
you
mean?
done DMT?
Oh yeah.
How many times?
So regular DMT or 5-MeO?
Well, the one that's all yellow and smells like shit.
Okay, so you're talking about like regular DMT.
Yeah, DMT.
Okay, regular DMT. I mean, I was on I did a lot of biscuit shows. when I was a
Jesus
kid, so,
Christ.
Biscuit shows?
Disco Biscuits.
I don't know what that is.
The Disco Biscuits is a jam band. They're like Fish or Grateful Dead, but like more electronic.
John's out of control.
John,
I love it.
you know what's actually funny? So I like the Dead was like. I mean,
How'd you go from emo to jam band?
So because I grew up with the Dead. Like
He smoked the wrong bowl.
all of my
So
what's it called?
You're gonna like Buddy. Buddy went to 500, 600 Dead shows.
Really?
I just had him on my
Dude, it was
podcast.
a
We're
great
releasing the
fucking
episode.
Fuck yeah.
Such a good
Yeah.
episode.
So he was in a 500, 600. So I'm not crazy like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say. I actually, very candidly, and again, because this was like the music that like I heard at my uncle's house and like my mom playing when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
you came up on it.
Yeah, it wasn't like, but like that was one side of the house, and my dad's side was like he would play like Steely Dan and Bruce Springsteen. And,
I
like,
just
American
found
rock.
out what like when I heard Steely Dan, like Oni hit me up. He's like, "You're white now," like or something like.
yeah.
He's like, "You're officially white."
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it's
something.
like white people smooth jazz.
You know,
basically.
Yacht rock, baby.
Damn
Yacht
it,
rock.
damn it, Bobby would listen to him. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this shit, bro?
So yeah, he actually that seems right on the money for him. But listen, it's nice, it's fun. Like I really like Steely Dan. I really like Joe Jackson. Like,
You heard of Steely Dan? Mm-hmm. So I didn't heard of Steely Dan.
you
and then-
have heard
Can't you
Steely
see
Dan?
that? Come
exactly.
on.
You have heard of Steely Dan, but you
didn't
don't
know
know
it
it's
was- yeah.
Exactly. There's songs in the background of music and
Yep.
shit like that. Like it's white people smooth jazz basically.
Hell yeah, it's fire. By the way, Steely
so
Dan's
good,
fire.
dog.
But like, so he listened to like that side, like weird jazzy shit, and then like rock music. So by the time that like I was discovering music for myself, like I was like more into like angsty shit and like the screamo side of things. But like also like I
LS
like,
Dunes.
I
baby.
like pop music. I'll be totally honest. So pop punk, like and like a really like.
So what's pop punk?
Pop punk is just like the punk music.
Like
that's,
Rancid?
Like no, like Fall Out Boy.
Like Fallout. My wife loves
Circus
Fallout Boy.
Survival.
She
Okay,
loves
perfect.
My Chemical Romance.
So My
all that.
Chemical Romance is another
Terrible,
great
terrible.
example.
Whoa,
we want to see
whoa.
Fallout Boy. I was on my phone the whole time.
Bro.
You would hate me.
All right,
that
we're
day.
gonna go to When We Were Young next year, and we can leave him in LA.
Oh,
Frank's
oh
gonna
my God! You guys
Actually,
are killing.
wait, Blink 182 announced full band.
Oh,
is
you don't
playing
want to
When We
hear
Were
my
Young next
Blink
year.
182. I was like such a sourpuss, and like I'm not even gonna say it, man.
Hilarious.
We
Bro.
left one song into the Blink 182 show. I was the worst husband that day. So
I would have broken up with him. So I'm very proud of you. I'm
My
very
God.
glad you guys are still together.
I do got to get ready to go. My bad. This has been a lot of
No,
fun.
no
though.
doubt,
You
no
got
doubt.
anything you want to plug? We're supposed to get out of here.
Read Weirdos. Check out High Times. We still exist.
That was a good one. Shout out, John. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, this was fun. This was quick, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Great to be here. Thank you guys
so
for
much
having
fun.
me.
Fuck yeah.
We're definitely gonna have you back on
Anytime.
Whenever, man. You already know, man. This is
great.
I think. Did you like it? Was it cool?